When I was in high school, I and a small group of my friends were very interested in theater. Problem was, we had very few outlets for that interest. We read some plays aloud in class, Macbeth, Pygmalion, and a few others, but our main chances to get on stage were the junior and senior plays. These were primarily fundraisers for the proms, the senior trip, and other class-specific activities. The plays were chosen, I think, by the class advisors, usually English teachers, who could only choose from very low royalty plays, and the quality of the plays selected was uniformly terrible. My junior year, the chosen play was Headin' for a Weddin', a hillbilly farce. I was given the role of Grandpappy Hankley, though I longed for the lead role of Homer Hollarbone. Senior year, the chosen play was Piccadilly, about the marriage-minded Dilly sisters. Still, we made the best of it, and there were a few student actors who transcended the material to give decent performances. The main thing is we had a great time doing it. It's like if you really love playing baseball, a sandlot game can be almost as good as being in the majors. We only gave 2 performances, one for the general public on Friday night and one for the student body on Monday morning. Both were always sellouts. After the Friday night performance, we all packed into the cars of the few students who had them, or those who'd been able to commandeer the family vehicle for the night, and set off for the East End, a local drive-in restaurant and teenage hangout. The East End on the east end of town were Elves, and the Dixie Queen on the west end were the brackets of the teen world. On weekends, a goodly portion of the teenage population of my hometown could be found hanging out at one or the other locations or cruising in between. The East End was slightly disreputable, which made it all the more attractive. The 4-lane bypass around town was still under construction at the time, so the only route to the East End took us past another local institution that had recently become disreputable in its own right, the Highland Drive-In Theater. Family-friendly during most of its existence, the Highland had recently been eclipsed by the new Jolly Roger Drive-In and had fallen on hard times. To compensate, the owners started showing soft-core porn. The drive-in proper was surrounded by a high board fence, so these cinematic gems were not usually visible to the general public. However, as we were about to find out, there was one brief moment as you rounded the curve approaching the entrance, the screen was clearly visible. As our caravan rounded the curve, we were treated to a giant image of a naked woman. The girls in the car screamed and covered their eyes, the boys not so much. Unfortunately, the driver of our vehicle was a guy, and his eyes were no longer on the road. Only the tires hitting the gravel at the edge of the pavement alerted him we were now headed directly at the fence. In my mind's eye, I could see the headline in the local paper, "Teen Hijinks End in Tragedy." I think they kept that headline set up permanently so they could use it as needed. The screams were now in earnest, but at the last possible second, the driver wrestled his dad's Buick Behemoth back onto the road and we were saved. After a brief silence, one of the guys yelled, "Go around again!" which we did several times at a lower rate of speed. Though we had fun with the play, we all had to admit we had only staged the second best show in town that night.